My girlfriend used my credit cards to spoil herself, then cheated, so I reported everything and disappeared while she faced the chaos alone. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and until recently, I really believed I'd found the love of my life. Her name was Emily. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party, one of those rooftop setups with cheap wine and fairy lights, and somehow she made the whole thing feel like a movie. She had this laugh that made people turn their heads, and when she spoke to you, it felt like you were the only person in the room. We hit it off fast. Within 2 months, we were spending almost every day together. 6 months in, she moved into my apartment. It wasn't anything fancy, just a decent 2-bedroom I'd worked hard to afford, but to me, having her there made it feel like home. Emily always talked about how she wanted to be a freelance designer, how the 9-to-5 world killed her creativity. I respected that. I'd saved a lot from my IT job, and she seemed passionate, so when she said she needed some time to build her portfolio, I told her not to worry about rent for a while. I'd take care of it. I didn't see it as a big deal. That's what partners do, right? You help each other grow, but even then, now that I look back, there were small things that didn't sit right. She'd casually mention a spa appointment or new clothes she got on discount, and I'd brush it off. We were in love. Why would I question a couple $100 here and there? Sometimes I'd notice her on my laptop late at night, browsing high-end websites with a gleam in her eye. Just window shopping, she'd say with a laugh. And I believed her, because back then, I wanted to, but I should have known. That was the beginning of it all, and I had no idea what was coming next. It started with small, almost invisible shifts, the kind you only notice in hindsight. At first, I thought nothing of the steady stream of Amazon packages arriving at our door. Every other day, there'd be another brown box on the welcome mat. Emily would grab them before I even had the chance to look. "Oh, it's just for a design project," she'd say breezily, waving a hand like it was no big deal. Other times, she'd laugh and tell me they were sponsored products she got through some influencer friend. Her tone was always light, teasing, almost mocking me for caring. So I didn't press. A few weeks later, I opened my credit card app and noticed the balance creeping up. I'm usually meticulous about my spending, but I'd just gotten a promotion and figured maybe I'd been a bit more generous lately, ordering food, buying new gadgets, small splurges. It was easier to blame myself than confront the uneasy feeling growing in the back of my mind. One evening, as we were eating takeout on the couch, I casually asked, "Hey, did you order anything recently? My bill looks a little high this month." Her whole demeanor shifted. The playful spark vanished. "Why are you always so paranoid about money?" she snapped, crossing her arms. "It's honestly kind of unattractive when you act like this." I froze. It wasn't just what she said. It was how sharp her tone was, like I'd accused her of something terrible. I stammered, "I wasn't accusing you. I just asked." She rolled her eyes. "God, you're so controlling sometimes." And just like that, the conversation was over. I backed off, desperate to keep the peace. I told myself I was overthinking it. That couples argue. That trust means letting things go. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered. This was the first red flag. I chose to ignore it. I wish I hadn't. I still remember the exact moment it happened. It was a Saturday morning and I was standing in line at our usual grocery store, cart loaded with the basics: eggs, milk, bread, a few extras for the weekend. The cashier scanned everything, bagged it up, and when I inserted my card, declined. I laughed awkwardly. "Try it again," I said, my cheeks warming. She did. Same result. Declined. That had never happened to me. Not once. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app right there at the register. My stomach dropped. Thousands of dollars in charges I didn't recognize. Makeup stores, spa bookings, hotel spa packages, even a designer handbag site I'd never visited. It wasn't just 1 or 2 purchases. It was a pattern. I ended up paying with my debit card, but my hands were shaking the whole time. The drive home felt like my chest was in a vice. When I walked in, Emily was lounging on the couch in one of her new silk robes, sipping iced coffee like she didn't have a care in the world. "Emily," I said, holding up my phone, "why is my credit card maxed out?" She blinked at me innocently, then launched into a shaky explanation. "Oh my God, is that what happened? I thought you wouldn't mind. It's just, I needed some things and I was going to pay you back once my big freelance client pays me. I didn't think it'd be a big deal." She even cried. Big, wet tears, hands trembling like she was the one who'd been wronged. I stood there, torn between love and betrayal. She'd never given me a reason not to trust her before, so I swallowed the lump in my throat and said, "This can't happen again." "Emily, I mean it." She nodded through her tears, promising it was all just a misunderstanding. That night, I paid the minimum balance to avoid penalties, but something inside me cracked a little. In the weeks that followed, something in Emily's behavior shifted. Every time I brought up money, she'd twist it around like I was the problem. One night, I gently mentioned the credit card bill again. "Emily, we really need to keep track of spending." "It's getting out of hand," she scoffed, tossing her hair back. "You're so cheap sometimes. Do you even hear yourself? It's like you don't want me to enjoy anything." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I tried to clarify, "That's not what I'm saying." She interrupted, voice rising. "God, you're so unsupportive. Most boyfriends would be proud to have a girlfriend who looks good and works on her dreams. But no, you just want to control everything." And somehow, by the end of every conversation, I found myself apologizing to her. It was like stepping into a funhouse mirror. Everything I said was distorted until I doubted my own intentions. I started wondering if maybe I was being stingy. I had grown up modestly, saving every penny. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she was right. Meanwhile, our friends noticed I wasn't as lively anymore. At group dinners, I was quieter, distracted. A buddy of mine asked, "You good, man? You seem off lately." I brushed it off with a forced laugh. "Yeah, just work stuff." I didn't want to make Emily look bad. I didn't want people judging her, or us. But while I was defending her to the world, she was out living a life that didn't include me. Her Instagram stories were full of salon appointments, spa days, expensive dinners with her friends, and new high-end clothes I definitely hadn't seen before. That's when I quietly started tracking my statements. Every transaction, every timestamp. I needed to know the truth, not the version she spun in her arguments, and what I found would eventually shatter everything. It happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home, on a short break between Zoom calls, when I decided to finally clean out the overflowing junk drawer in the kitchen. You know the one. Old receipts, batteries that may or may not work, random takeout menus. But buried beneath all of that was a crisp white envelope with my name on it. Not a bill, an activation letter. Inside was a shiny, untouched credit card. With my full name. Only. I never applied for this card. I stared at it for a good 30 seconds, waiting for my brain to offer some kind of explanation. Maybe it was an old card I forgot about? Maybe it was promotional, but no. It was new, issued just last month. A sick feeling rose in my chest. I opened my laptop, heart racing, and pulled up my credit report. 3 new accounts. 3, all opened in the last 6 months. None of which I had any memory of applying for. All of them under my name, my social security number. One of them was the very card in my hand. I didn't even confront Emily. Not yet. I needed answers, so I called the credit card issuer pretending to be her, nervously adjusting my voice. "Hi, my partner and I applied jointly, but I just wanted to confirm the mailing address." The rep on the line confirmed it, our apartment address, but under both our names. She'd added herself as an authorized user. My hands were shaking as I hung up. That night, while Emily was out, I took screenshots of everything. Account openings, balances, interest rates, credit report dates, her Instagram posts flaunting new purchases. I didn't know what I'd do with all of it yet, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't love anymore. It was fraud, and I'd only just scratched the surface. Once upon a time, Emily used to look at me like I mattered. Now she barely looked at me at all. Or when she did, it was with thinly veiled annoyance. She'd roll her eyes if I asked her to lower the volume while I worked. If I cooked dinner, she'd poke at it and say, "Did you follow a recipe this time?" At first I laughed it off, but then she started doing it in front of other people, mocking the way I dressed. The shows I liked, even my laugh. I became the punchline in my own relationship. One night, I overheard her on the phone while I was walking past the bathroom. She didn't know I was nearby. She giggled and said, "Please, he's not going anywhere. He's too boring to leave, and he needs me. He just doesn't know it." I stood there frozen, toothbrush in hand, staring at the floor like it could anchor me. It wasn't even the cheating or the credit cards that hurt the most. It was that she saw me as weak, trapped, disposable. That night, something shifted in me. Not with anger. With clarity, I started planning. Quietly, methodically. First, I called my bank and set up real-time alerts on every account. Any withdrawal over $50 would ping my phone immediately. I added two-factor authentication to everything. Then I went online and rented a small storage unit about 20 minutes away. I told Emily I was working overtime that week. In reality, I started moving things. My childhood keepsakes. Documents, backup drives, the laptop she didn't know about. Every step felt like taking off a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. She thought I'd never leave, but she had no idea. I'd already started disappearing. I didn't go looking for it. But when I saw a $486 charge from a luxury hotel downtown on one of the hidden credit cards, something in my gut twisted. It wasn't a conference center. Not a spa, just a hotel. The charge hit at 11:04 a.m. on a Tuesday. Emily had told me she was meeting a client that day, some vague branding shoot with a startup founder she never named. I opened my laptop and stared at the hotel's name for a long time. Then, without really thinking, I grabbed my keys and drove down. Her car was in the lot. No mistaking it. Same dent on the rear bumper, same air freshener dangling from the mirror. I walked into the lobby, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The air smelled like perfume and fresh linen. I approached the front desk calmly. "Hi, I think my partner might have checked in earlier. Emily, could you let me know if she's here?" The clerk gave me a tight smile. "Yes, she checked in around 10:45. Is everything all right?" I nodded. "Yeah, just waiting." I took a seat in the corner of the lobby behind a large ficus plant and waited. 10 minutes, 15. I was sweating through my shirt. Then I saw them. Emily came around the corner in a silky champagne blouse I'd never seen before. Her arm was looped around a tall guy in a fitted blazer, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. He leaned down and kissed her right on the mouth. She kissed him back. They stepped into the elevator, her hand on his chest. I didn't make a scene. I didn't confront her. I didn't even flinch. I just lifted my phone. Snap, 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 proof. And then I walked out the front doors. Into the sunlight, feeling more hollow than angry. But that was the moment I knew she wasn't just stealing from me. She was erasing me. She came home late that night, humming to herself like she'd just spent the day shopping. Her hair was freshly curled, makeup still flawless, and she had the nerve to kiss me on the cheek like nothing had happened. I didn't say a word at first. I waited until she set her purse down and kicked off her heels. Then I pulled out my phone and quietly laid it on the counter, screen facing up. 3 photos, crystal clear. Her laughing with him, holding his arm. That kiss, her whole face changed. For a second she looked stunned, like she hadn't prepared for the possibility that I might actually see her. Then the rage kicked in. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she shouted, snatching the phone off the counter. "Were you following me? That's so fucking creepy. Are you stalking me now?" I kept my voice calm. "It's a hotel, Emily, during work hours. With a man you kissed." "You lied to me." Her eyes narrowed. "He's a client. I was doing a brand shoot, okay? God, you're so insecure, it's pathetic." "You kissed him," I said quietly. She exploded. Screamed that I was suffocating her, that I didn't trust her, that I was trying to ruin everything. She grabbed a candle off the table and hurled it across the room. It shattered near the wall. Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. As soon as I heard her car peel out of the driveway, I locked the door behind her. Then I sat down at my laptop and froze every single shared account we had. Banking, utilities, subscriptions. I changed every password I could think of, and somewhere in that silence, I realized I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt done. Completely, finally, done. The next morning, I made an appointment with a credit fraud attorney. I didn't even tell my boss where I was going, just took a sick day, dressed in plain clothes, and walked into the office with a folder full of screenshots. Printouts and frozen bank statements. The lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Carla, barely made it through the first 10 pages before she set the folder down and looked me in the eye. "Do you understand how serious this is?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "I think so." She leaned forward. "This isn't just unauthorized use. What she did, opening accounts in your name, using your social security number without permission, is felony identity theft. You could press charges today." I sat there absorbing that word, felony. She advised me to file a police report immediately. Said I was lucky to catch it when I did. If I'd waited longer, my credit could have been ruined for years. We began the process right there. She helped me draft a cease and desist letter to Emily and guided me through reporting the fraudulent accounts to all 3 credit bureaus. Then we walked 2 blocks to the nearest police station, where I handed over everything: documents, timelines, photos, account histories. The officer in charge didn't even blink. He'd seen this before. Too many times. They opened an official case. Told me to stay quiet and not confront her any further. "Let her think you're still in the dark," Carla said. "The more she does, the deeper she digs her own grave." That night, I went home like nothing had changed. I smiled when she walked in. I asked if she wanted dinner. She had no idea I'd just filed criminal charges against her. No idea that. Behind the calm mask, I was planning my final move, and this time, I wasn't backing down. I waited for the perfect moment. Silent. Patient, calculating. Emily had plans that Saturday. Brunch with her friends, then a salon appointment she bragged about all week. I watched her leave in a rush, keys jingling, sunglasses perched on her head like she was the star of her own movie. The second her car disappeared around the corner, I got to work. I moved fast. Years of living together, reduced to what I could carry in 3 duffel bags and 2 moving boxes. I emptied my side of the closet, grabbed my documents, electronics, hard drives, everything that was mine. The couch we picked out together? Left it. The TV she insisted on upgrading? Left that too. I didn't want anything she touched. I logged into the last of our shared streaming services and wiped my profiles. Deleted my half of the shared calendars. Disconnected my devices from the smart home system she'd insisted on installing. Then, I took one of the envelopes from the drawer, the same kind her secret credit card had come in, and wrote 4 words on a piece of paper. "You'll understand everything soon. No name. No explanation. Just that." I left it on the kitchen counter where she'd be sure to see it. By sundown, I was gone. I'd already signed the lease on a temporary rental, small, furnished, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood 2 towns over. I paid in advance, changed my mailing address, registered under a nickname I hadn't used since college. Then I blocked her. On everything: phone, email, social, Venmo, all of it. And when I finally sat down on that strange couch in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and silence, I exhaled, not sadness, not fear, just freedom. For the first time in years, I could finally hear myself think, and I knew I wasn't running. I was reclaiming myself. It didn't take long for the detonation to reach her. By the end of that first week, I started getting texts from mutual friends. Nothing confrontational, just confused, urgent messages like, "Hey, is everything okay with Emily? She's been losing it. Dude, she said you stole from her?" Apparently, the house of cards she built was collapsing faster than even I expected. All the accounts I'd frozen, they were in full effect. Her spa cards, her online shopping habits, even the utilities, all blocked, shut down, or rerouted. The rent bounced, twice. The landlord wasn't happy. Then the cops showed up. She called me over a dozen times from numbers I didn't recognize. California, Texas, even one labeled private caller. I didn't pick up. Not once. She left voicemails that swung wildly between rage and desperation. "I don't know what you've done, but you're ruining everything." Then another. "Please, just call me back. We can fix this. I made mistakes, okay? Just talk to me." I listened. Then deleted them. Meanwhile, her carefully curated online image started to crack. The girl who once posted daily self-care stories and designer hauls was now eerily quiet. When she did post, it was vague, bitter, betrayed by the person I trusted most. Lesson learned. But people weren't buying it anymore. Because screenshots started leaking, photos of her fraud, the luxury charges, the police report filings, even her name listed under pending investigation. One of our mutuals apparently shared the Dropbox folder I'd given them weeks earlier. Suddenly, people stopped DMing me to ask what happened. They already knew. And Emily? She wasn't the admired boss babe anymore. She was the cautionary tale, and I just watched from the sidelines, quiet, calm, and finally in control. The chaos she created had finally come home. Rock bottom hit her harder than even I imagined. A month after I disappeared, I got a quiet message from a mutual friend. Emily got evicted. Turns out she hadn't paid rent since I left, assuming I'd keep covering it like I always had. The landlord filed for eviction, and she was forced out. Boxes on the sidewalk, neighbors watching as she cursed and sobbed in front of the building. Days later, her car was repossessed. I recognized the lender. It was one of the fake accounts she'd opened using my info. She couldn't keep up with the payments now that everything was in her name. Her clients? Oh, ghosted. Either they found out about the investigation, or they'd seen enough red flags to walk away. And still, she couldn't stop playing the victim. She posted a black square on Instagram with white text that read, "Imagine being betrayed by the one person you thought would never leave you." Comments were turned off. Then came the kicker. Her sister called me. We hadn't spoken in over a year. She was hesitant, but said, "Emily's talking about suing you. Says you abandoned her with nothing." I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just said, "Tell her to go ahead," because I was covered. Every fraudulent account, every text, every screenshot, every recording. I documented it all. Filed with the police, logged with my lawyer, the cease and desist, the credit reports, my withdrawal from the lease. The police case had advanced. Last I heard, she'd been called in for questioning. She didn't even know how deep it went, how many steps I'd taken behind the scenes. She thought I was the fool she could manipulate, the one who'd roll over forever, but I wasn't the one drowning anymore. She was, and still, even at her lowest, she couldn't admit the truth. Because in her world, I would always be the villain. It was a random Tuesday night when I got the message. One of our old mutual friends, Amanda, reached out. She kept it short. "I just heard everything. I had no idea. I'm so sorry for ever judging you." At first, I didn't know what to say. I'd stayed silent for so long, letting people believe whatever Emily painted me to be, the cold, distant boyfriend who disappeared without a word. But something about Amanda's message cracked the dam. I sent her a Dropbox folder. The one with everything, screenshots of the charges, the fake credit card applications, the police report, even a few recordings of her gaslighting me. No explanations. No justifications. Just the truth. Within 48 hours, the ripple effect was massive. People started messaging me. People I hadn't spoken to in months. Friends who had ghosted me after the breakup. Some even admitted they believed Emily when she said I emotionally abandoned her. But now? They were stunned, apologetic. "I'm so sorry, man. I judged you without knowing a thing. I feel sick reading what she did to you. She told us you were unstable." I believed her. "I'm sorry, and Emily?" She went radio silent. I'm guessing she realized the house of lies had finally collapsed. Her inner circle, those friends who used to comment "Queen" on every photo, slowly vanished. No more likes. No more story replies. Just a feed growing emptier by the day. I didn't feel triumphant. This wasn't revenge, but it was closure. Not because they saw her for who she really was, but because for the first time, they saw me for who I really was. Not bitter. Not weak, not cold. Just someone who had been deeply hurt. And finally heard. Every now and then, I still hear her name, a message through a mutual friend. A random text from a number I don't recognize. Always the same flavor. Soft, regretful, carefully worded. She says she's changed. She's asking if you'd be open to just talking. She's in therapy now. She wants closure, but I never respond. Not out of hate. Not out of spite, just because there's nothing left to say. There's no version of me that wants to open that door again. Not even to close it properly. I already did that when I walked away. When I think of her now, I don't feel rage or bitterness. I feel a kind of distant sadness. Like watching a once beautiful building slowly collapse from the inside. But I don't feel responsible for the wreckage. I carried guilt for a long time, wondering if I hadn't done enough, hadn't been enough. But now, I know I gave everything I could, and when it nearly broke me, I chose myself. Since then, life has been quieter, cleaner, lighter. I rebuilt my finances, closed every account she ever touched. I changed jobs, left that cold IT cubicle and found a company where I feel respected. I even started dating again, slowly, carefully, with better boundaries this time. There are still scars, but they don't bleed anymore. People talk about revenge like it's sweet, like it heals something, but they're wrong. Peace? Peace tastes better than revenge ever could. If you're in a relationship where love feels like a loan, run. I'm not telling this story to shame her. I'm telling it so someone out there doesn't feel as alone as I did. Because that was the hardest part, feeling like maybe I was the crazy one. She didn't just use my credit cards. She used my empathy, my patience, my silence, and for a long time, I let her. That's what financial abuse looks like when it wears perfume and says, "I love you." It starts small. A package here. A lie there. A laugh that makes you feel stupid for even asking. Then it grows. And when you finally get the courage to say, "This doesn't feel right," they don't just deny it. They make it your fault. You're too sensitive. You don't trust me. You're controlling, so you shrink. You apologize. You swallow the discomfort and keep giving. Money, time, pieces of your identity, hoping one day they'll look at you and see someone worth respecting. They don't. And if that feels familiar, I want you to know you're not crazy, you're just being drained. My biggest regret isn't the debt. It's not the legal mess, the wasted years, or even the heartbreak. It's the way I lost myself trying to be enough for someone who never saw my worth in the first place. If your gut is screaming, listen. If your peace is disappearing, that's your sign. Love isn't supposed to feel like this heavy. Endless tab you're always paying off. It should feel safe, kind, honest. And if it doesn't, please believe me, you can walk away. And one day, you'll breathe again. Looking back, it's almost surreal. How deep I was in. How much of myself I handed over without even realizing it. I used to think love meant sacrifice. That if someone needed more, you gave more. That if something felt off, you were the one who had to fix it. I confused manipulation for misunderstanding, gaslighting for growing pains, theft for trust. But I see it clearly now. I wasn't just paying off credit card bills. I was paying in silence, in sleepless nights, in slowly shrinking parts of myself. Love, real love, doesn't cost you your dignity. It doesn't drain you until you're a hollow version of who you used to be. What Emily took from me, yeah, it had a dollar sign attached. But the real damage wasn't financial, it was emotional, and still, I'm not angry anymore. I've done the work. Therapy, healing, rebuilding. I'm not perfect, but I'm whole again, and that's something she'll never get to take credit for. I share this not to hold on to the past, but to release it. To remind someone out there that you're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to be your own rescue story, because the biggest shift in my life didn't come when I found the evidence, or when I filed the report, or even when I vanished. It came the moment I realized I was worth more. She thought I was paying off her bags and dinners. She never realized the real debt was losing a man who would have done anything for her. And now, she's bankrupt in ways she'll never understand. I'm done. I'm free.